Charles Tyrone, a graduate student in his 60s at Arkansas Tech University, grew up in Mississippi and witnessed firsthand the emergence of casinos there. I decided to talk to him about his thoughts on the possibility of the same thing happening in Arkansas.
Living in Mississippi when they decided to legalize gambling, and that was a big change for Mississippi because it's a very conservative state with a lot of religious influence that said no, we shouldn't do that. But what changed that for the people in Mississippi is that the casino industry came in and they sold the idea based on the idea that tax money was going to flow into the state and it could be used for highways and for education. That's what the money was going to be restricted for. And they passed constitutional amendments just like Arkansas is doing now. And those amendments passed. The other thing that helped the amendments pass is they restricted where the casinos could be built. When it first started out, they had to be riverboat casinos, which was kind of a fake thing, a sham thing, because they really weren't riverboats. They were buildings that had water around them. And at first they were only on the Mississippi River, and one of the interesting things is that the casinos in Tunica, that was the poorest county and the poorest city in Mississippi. And so all of a sudden that went from a place where people who were predominantly African American, who had nothing, all of a sudden their jobs and other businesses and hotels and things like that are tied to the casinos. And that turned out to be a really big economic boom for that area. And then the Gulf Coast was recovering from Hurricane Camille, which had destroyed most of the Gulf Coast and most of the tourism industry. The casinos came into the Gulf Coast, and all of a sudden you have a tourism industry again, and you have people that they bus in and they fly in to go to the casinos. And then you've got all the hotels and restaurants and tourist attractions that weren't doing well. A lot of them hadn't been rebuilt, that all of a sudden they're back. So it's been a good thing for Mississippi. The highway systems, you can go and you can see that the highway systems have improved because the roads used to be really, really bad.
After all the good things he had to say about Mississippi getting casinos, I assumed he would be for casinos in Arkansas. And while he thought it was a good idea, he surprised me when I asked him would he vote in November for the amendment.
I think it would be a good thing in Arkansas. The thing that troubles me about Arkansas is that this constitutional amendment is going to give exclusive rights to an individual, to this woman that has led the campaign to get the amendments approved. And that wasn't the way it was done in Mississippi. There was a constitutional amendment that was passed that said you can bring casinos in. And there was a state board of gaming that was set up that gave licenses for the casinos to be built. So it wasn't in the hands of an individual, and it let competition decide. You know, you had to come in, you had to bid, you had to prove that you had the financial wherewithal and you were going to meet the regulations and all of that. And then after the casinos were built, this gaming board does audits and makes sure that the money that is supposed to be coming back to the state is getting there. So they provide oversight and regulation. I don't hear those kinds of things in the Arkansas Amendment. And I'm not morally opposed to gambling, but I probably won't vote for this amendment because it gives too much power to an individual.